Hello. Today I'm going to be doing my topic on homeschooling. And some of you might want to ask, well, what is the controversy concerning homeschooling? Well, the controversy concerning homeschooling is whether or not the traditional education system, namely public schools, provides the best way to educate our children. I believe that homeschooling is a good, if not better, way to give your child the best education possible. So, the next question is, why do some people believe that homeschooling is a valid opportunity? Well, or why do they make that choice? Well, homeschooling is a choice. It's a choice made by the parents who feel that it is the best way to educate their children and the best way to protect them from public school culture. Homeschooling is not for everyone. But it is a valuable option. I will have three main reasons that I will discuss throughout this presentation. The first, why homeschooling should be considered an option. I will discuss in my presentation how public schools are failing our children. Two, how homeschoolers are actually better prepared for college than their public school counterparts. And three, how public schools are a great safety concern for our children today. First, let's talk about how public schools are failing our children. They are failing our children academically because one of the biggest concerns of public schools is how they get more money. Because this is such a big concern, they become subject to government regulations which are implemented in order to decide who gets money, how, what, when, how, and when. Education is becoming too standardized through this, and it does not fit the needs of the variety of children that enter the public school system, because it does not allow for a variety of methods to teach. One such act is the No Child Left Behind Act, which means if a school wants money from the federal government, it needs to teach to the lowest common denominator. The act states that regardless of where students receive instruction, all students with disabilities should have access to participate in and make progress in the general curriculum. In order for schools to receive funding, students need to pass a test. And teachers will teach so that these students can pass the test. But students who have disabilities are taught at the same level as those who do not. In this way, students suffer. Either the slower students have to struggle so much to keep up, or the academic students are not challenged enough and do not grow enough in their academic potential. And aside, like I mentioned before, part of the issue that is concerned with the No Child Left Behind Act is the money issue. But money is not really a big issue when it comes to educating our children. According to a study conducted by Dr. Rudner in 1998, homeschooling students spend between $0 to $600 are scored in the 80th percentile in the nation. Those who spend greater than $600 on their education scored only in the 83rd percentile. One of the other things that our students are failing our students is the personal education factor. Because schools have become so large and have dealt with so many people, they have an issue with getting personal education. And personal education helps students learn better and achieve higher academic standing. Now, even though I went to a private school and it was almost like a homeschool. I had 200 kids in my school, and my class had 10. So the education in my school was very personal. The students' average SAT scores were 1,800 in my school, whereas other schools in the general North Jersey area or public schools had approximately a 1,500 average on the SAT. One of the benefits of personal education, or why personal education is so important, is because it allows teachers to become familiar with the students' learning capabilities and personal habits and hurdles. This gives them the ability to watch them perform over many years and to give them more insight on how they can best help the child involved in the learning process. So how do you see the results of personal education in homeschooling? Well, in a 1997 study done by the HSLDA, the study demonstrated that homeschoolers, on average, outperformed their counterparts in public schools by 30 to 37 percentile points in all subjects. And race makes no difference in this either. Whites and minorities that are homeschooled score in approximately the 87th percentile, while in public schools, whites score approximately in the 82nd and minorities in the 77th. According to ParentingScience.com, in 5 to 7 test areas, structured homeschoolers were at least one grade level ahead of their public school counterparts. The next thing I'd like to talk about, or my second point, is college preparedness. There are many myths that fly around about college preparedness of homeschoolers. I will focus on 3. They are 1, they are not used to the setting, 2, they are not used to the workload, and 3, they are not good at socializing. The first myth, that they are not used to the setting. While this is technically true, it does not have a very big effect on kids that are homeschooled because they tend to be more self-disciplined. Cara Coleman says that homeschooling taught me how to study and to pursue knowledge for myself. My cousin, also homeschooled and a homeschool advocate, said she learned how to do things without the teachers feeding her information. She made her college experience more rewarding because she went to the books and studied on her own. She did a lot of outside classwork and she got very involved with her teachers and did very well. She ended up graduating last year with a 4.0. In my own interaction with other homeschoolers, I have come to realize that they are actually better prepared for the college way of conducting classes because they are used to having college-like classes. A lot of homeschoolers are not solely educated in the home anymore. They have what's called a co-op. And a cooperative is where students get together for a class 1 or 2 days a week, and they discuss things with other people their own age who are taking the same class. And they are given homework. This homework they need to complete before the next class period. So it forces them to do their work on their own without being spoon-fed by their teachers, as many public school students are. The second is they're not used to the work. The second myth is that they're not used to the workload. But this is not true. They're actually better prepared academically. Homeschoolers have a higher graduation rate according to U.S. News. The graduation rate for homeschoolers is 66.7%, while that of public schoolers is 57.5%. And the homeschoolers earned a higher GPA while doing so. The third and final myth that I will address is that homeschoolers are not good at socializing. But this isn't true either. Homeschoolers, first of all, have to make an effort to socialize, because they aren't in a group of kids like many people who go to public schools. But this doesn't necessarily resign them to the fact that they will never be good at socializing, because what they really learn how to do is communicate with other people, because they have to learn how to make their own avenues. They have to be actively seeking relationships. And the other thing is they get more time to do it. Because they're not in a structured school system from 8 until 3 or 8 until 2 or 7 till 2, they have all this time that they can manipulate to do things that they enjoy, giving them more time to meet more people who have the same interests as them. Orlowski says, I had a lot of time to pursue outside interests, according to U.S. News. The last thing I would like to talk about today in regards to why homeschooling is actually a good option is because of safety. Safety and security are the biggest issues that face many decisions to homeschool, to those who make the decisions to homeschool. It is in the top 3 reasons for homeschooling. According to edweek.org, an education site, it is uppermost for these parents. Uppermost for these parents are the concerns about violence, peer pressure, and poor academic quality in their schools. 21% said they were most concerned about their child's learning environment. So many parents would prefer not to expose their children to the public school culture of drugs, sex, bullying, and the recent added risk of guns, bombs, and knives. So, is violence really a serious threat? Well, according to the CDC, both physical and emotional violence or bullying are on the rise. In 2010, 828,000 students were victims of non-fatal attacks at school among students 12 to 18 years of age. 7% of teachers had reported being threatened or attacked by students. And in 2009, 20% of students ages 12 to 18 had reported that there was gang activity going on in and around their school. The next issue of safety is drugs, and I will briefly touch on this point. According to drugabuse.gov, 22.9% of 12th graders smoked pot in 2012. In 2012 also, 17% of high schoolers used alcohol, smoked, or used drugs during the school day on school campuses, according to a study conducted by Columbia University. In all honesty, how much influence do you think this really has on your kids? They are exposed to drugs and day in and day out, and I know of a lot of people who say they walk into the bathrooms at school and that's what they smell. So it's very real, and it's a very real peer pressure threat that is there for your children. The last issue of safety I'd like to discuss today is sex, STDs, and pregnancy. According to a sex special on the doctors that I was watching, a lot of kids are having a lot of sex, and this is dangerous. A lot of people believe that you have sex because you love somebody, and that's the only reason you have sex. But for a lot of high school kids today, that is not the only reason. A lot of teenagers, young teenagers, are having sex because they feel pressured to do so. They feel that if they don't have this physical activity, they won't be accepted by their peers. They'll be considered strange. And we all know that as part of being part of a high school culture, non-acceptance is one of the biggest fears that face high school children. But the thing is, this is really bad, because kids who engage in sexual activity are at a higher risk for STDs, and women are at a high risk for pregnancy. Protection doesn't always work, and both men and women can end up with STDs. And women can end up pregnant. And that can ruin their lives. Because at the age of 15, if you're pregnant and carry that baby to term, the likelihood of you being able to finish high school, go on to college, and get a successful career is very low. So then why don't we want to keep our children safe? A lot of people say that homeschooling parents homeschool their children because they want to keep them sheltered from the ways of the world. But if keeping them sheltered means that I don't let them go to a place where they have the potential of being shot, stabbed, or blown up in a bomb, or have a bomb scare, and they have to live in fear every day, then I would do it. And if it means that they don't have that pressure of drugs that can potentially ruin their life, can end them in jail, and can end them up having drug addictions for the rest of their life, then I would do it. And if it means that I protect my kids from the sex culture of public schools, and I keep my kid from making a decision at the age of 13, 14, or 15 about having sex, and protect them from ruining or changing their lives, then I would do it. Kids are not mature enough to make, at the age of 13, 14, or 15, to make those decisions on their own. And they are very impressionable. So it would be a good idea to teach them the way that you believe that they should be taught, and to keep them from those things that could pressure them into ruining their lives. In conclusion, I'd like to say that parents need to decide this for themselves. Homeschooling isn't for everyone, and I'm not saying that everybody here has to homeschool. But what I am saying is that you need to consider it as an option, because it is a viable option, and it's a very good one. If you conduct homeschooling in the right manner, your children will benefit academically, they will benefit when they go to college, and hopefully in the workforce thereafter, and they will benefit from it in the safety and the elimination of the fear that pervades much of our public society today. Public schools are failing our kids, and you have an option to change that. Thank you.